I smiled when my boss's daughter said it. Not because it was funny, but because I already knew the sentence would cost her more than she imagined. "We don't need old men like you anymore." She said it standing behind her father's desk, shoulders squared, chin lifted, like the furniture itself had already accepted her as its new owner. The glass wall of the office reflected my face back at me, gray at the temples, calm in the eyes. I nodded once, slow and deliberate, and thanked her for her time. I didn't argue. I didn't ask for a reason. I didn't remind her of anything she'd missed. Everyone in that building thought I'd just been erased. Before I tell you everything, do me a small favor. Stick with this story. Let it travel. Leave a comment, tell me where you're listening from or what time it is for you. It helps more than you think. My name is Stanley Rowe. I'm 59 years old, and until that morning, I'd been the operations manager at Harper Industrial Supply for 18 years. Not the founder. Not the visionary. Just the man who made sure nothing broke. I was the one who knew which vendors needed a call before paperwork, which machines needed to cool down longer than the manual claimed, which supervisors could handle pressure and which ones needed space before they made mistakes. Quiet knowledge. The kind you only get by staying long enough to see things fail and fixing them before anyone else notices. I gathered my things in silence. A framed photo of my wife from before cancer hollowed her cheeks. A notebook filled with pencil sketches of workflows I'd refined over the years. A coffee mug chipped on the rim, still warm. Around me, younger employees pretended to be very interested in their screens. A few looked up, eyes wide, like they wanted to say something but didn't know how. I didn't blame them. Fear travels faster than loyalty. As I walked past the production floor, the machines hummed the way they always had, steady and obedient. I wondered how long that would last. The thought surprised me, because it didn't come with anger. Just curiosity. I pushed through the exit doors, felt the late morning sun hit my face, and kept walking. I didn't go home right away. I drove aimlessly for a while, letting the quiet settle in. When I finally parked in my driveway, I sat there with the engine off, hands on the steering wheel, listening to the tick of cooling metal. Inside the house, everything was where I'd left it. The chair by the window. The stack of unopened mail. The silence that had grown louder since my wife died 4 years earlier. I carried the box in, set it on the table, and opened the drawer where I kept important papers. The contract was exactly where I'd left it. I'd signed it 12 years earlier, after a competitor tried to lure me away. The founder, her father, had insisted on adding protections. "I don't want to lose you to someone flashier," he'd said, tapping the page with his pen. "And I don't want anyone making a rash decision that hurts the company." At the time, I'd thought it was generous. I hadn't realized it was prophetic. I didn't read the whole thing. I didn't need to. I knew where the clause lived. I ran my finger down the page until it landed on the paragraph that mattered, the one no one ever pays attention to because it sounds boring. Termination without documented cause. Operational continuity authority. Temporary consulting status. Conditions triggered automatically. I closed the folder and set it aside. I didn't call a lawyer yet. I made coffee instead. Sat at the table. Watched the steam rise. Somewhere across town, she was probably celebrating her first big decision, congratulating herself for being decisive. For being modern. For cutting dead weight. By the next morning, the first call came in. It wasn't from the company. It was from a supplier we'd worked with for over a decade. His voice was tight, polite in that strained way people get when they don't know who they're allowed to be upset with. He asked why a long-standing order had been changed overnight and whether the new terms were a mistake. I told him I no longer worked there. There was a pause on the line, long enough for me to picture him frowning at his desk. "Oh," he said finally. "That explains a lot." I hung up before he could say more. A second call came in 10 minutes later. Then a third. Each one a small variation of the same confusion. I answered none of them after that. I wasn't obligated to. And more importantly, I didn't need to. Around noon, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. This one I answered. "You need to fix this," she said, skipping any greeting. Her voice was sharp, clipped, already annoyed. "Orders are frozen. People are saying they don't know who authorized changes. Did you do something?" I looked out the window at the maple tree in my yard, its leaves just starting to turn. "No," I said truthfully. "You're lying," she snapped. "This started after you left." "That's timing," I replied. "Not causation." She inhaled sharply, the sound of someone unused to being spoken to that way. "You can't just walk out and leave us exposed." "I didn't walk out," I said. "I was fired." Silence. Then, colder, "You're not employed here anymore. You have no authority." I smiled again, this time for real, though she couldn't see it. "You should check the contract." She laughed, short and dismissive. "I don't have time for this." The line went dead. I set the phone down and didn't move for a long moment. Somewhere, something had shifted. Not outwardly. Internally. Like the click of a lock finally turning. By the end of the day, the email arrived. Formal. Polite. Sent by the company's legal department. It acknowledged my termination and outlined next steps regarding severance. I read it once, slowly, then forwarded it to a lawyer friend with a single line, "It's time." He called me back within the hour, excitement barely contained. "She really didn't read it, did she?" "No," I said. "She didn't." "Do you want to sue?" he asked. I thought about it. About the building. The people. The systems that were already starting to wobble. "Not yet," I said. "Let's just enforce." There was a pause on his end, then a low chuckle. That might be worse for them. The next morning, I woke up early, the way I always had. Made coffee. Read the news. Somewhere between the second and third sip, my phone started vibrating again. This time it didn't stop. Missed calls. Texts. Voicemails stacking up faster than I could listen to them. Vendors. Managers. Someone from finance asking who was allowed to approve what now. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I waited for the call that mattered. It came just after 10. Her father's name lit up my screen. I stared at it for a long moment before answering, already knowing that whatever he was about to say would change everything that came next. His voice sounded older than I remembered. "Stanley," he said, skipping the pleasantries he'd always been careful with. "What's going on over there?" I leaned back in my chair, eyes still on the phone like it might say something else if I stared long enough. "That depends," I replied evenly. "Are you asking as the founder, or as her father?" A long breath came through the line. I could picture him sitting in the study of the house he'd built with his first big bonus, fingers pressed to his temple the way he used to when a problem didn't have an easy answer. "I'm asking as someone who woke up to 6 emails from the board and 3 from vendors threatening to suspend contracts," he said. "And as someone who thought he'd raised his daughter to read before she acted." I didn't rush to answer. Silence had always been my strongest tool. "She fired me yesterday," I said finally. "Without cause. Without documentation. And without checking the contract you insisted I sign." Another pause. Shorter this time. Sharper. "She told me you were resisting change," he said. "That you were undermining her authority." "If that were true," I said, "there'd be a paper trail." "You know me better than that." "Yes," he admitted quietly. "I do." In the background, I heard a muffled voice, hers. Fast. Agitated. Demanding to know who he was talking to. He lowered his voice. "She didn't run this by legal," he said. "Did she?" "No," I replied. "And legal just emailed me confirming the termination." Another exhale. This one heavier. "I warned her," he muttered. "I told her some decisions echo." "I'm not calling to fight," I said before he could spiral. "I'm calling to be clear. The continuity clause is active. My attorney will send formal notice today." There it was. The sound of inevitability settling in. "So you're coming back?" he asked. "No," I said. "I'm enforcing what's written. Nothing more. Nothing less." He didn't argue. That alone told me how bad things already were. "She's not going to take this well," he said. "She didn't take reading well either," I replied, then softened my tone. "This doesn't have to be personal. But it will be consequential." We hung up without resolving anything. We didn't need to. The machine had already started moving. By noon, the official notice went out. Clean. Precise. No accusations. Just citations. Clauses. Timeframes. Authority. It stated that per the contract, I would act as an external operational consultant for a fixed period, empowered to document, advise, and ensure continuity. Paid. Protected. Independent. She called me the moment she read it. "You think you're clever," she snapped. "You think this makes you untouchable." "I don't think about you at all," I said, and meant it. "You're sabotaging my company." "No," I corrected. "I'm observing it." "You're hiding behind paperwork." "I'm standing on it," I said. "There's a difference." She hung up on me again, but this time I could hear the crack in her control just before she did it. Over the next few days, I did exactly what I said I would. I observed. Every decision she rushed through landed on my desk in triplicate. Every vendor complaint. Every deviation from established process. I didn't interfere. I didn't warn. I didn't correct. I documented. Dates. Times. Names. Consequences. When she changed a supplier without checking lead times and production stalled, it went in the file. When she cut a supervisor out of a decision loop and quality checks were skipped, it went in the file. When 2 senior engineers quit within 48 hours of each other, citing leadership instability, it went in the file. None of it was hidden. That was the cruelest part for her. There was no villain she could point to. Just mirrors. Late one evening, my phone rang again. This time it was Mark, a senior logistics manager who'd been with the company almost as long as I had. He didn't bother easing into it. "She doesn't know what she's doing," he said. "And people are scared." "Of what?" I asked. "Of being blamed," he said. "Of being next." I let that sit between us. "I can't tell you what to do," I said. "But I can tell you this, good systems don't depend on titles. They depend on people who understand them." He was quiet for a moment. "If you were building something," he said carefully, "I'd want to hear about it." "I'm not building anything," I replied. "Not yet." But after I hung up, I stared at the wall longer than necessary. Because the truth was, I'd started getting those calls more often. Engineers. Supervisors. People she'd sidelined or dismissed. Not asking for revenge. Just asking where stability had gone. 3 days in, her attorney requested a meeting. We sat across from each other in a neutral conference room downtown. She arrived late, wearing confidence like armor. I arrived early, with my lawyer, my notes, and no intention of raising my voice. "This is unnecessary," she said, waving a hand at the documents between us. "We can offer you a severance and be done with this." My lawyer didn't even look up. "The severance is automatic," he said. "And this isn't about being done. It's about control," she shot back. "No," I said calmly. "It's about consequence." She leaned forward. "You think the board is on your side?" "I think the numbers are," I replied. "And numbers don't care about sides." Her lawyer shifted uncomfortably, eyes flicking to the binder my attorney had placed on the table. It wasn't thick. It didn't need to be. Quality beats volume every time. "This clause," she said through clenched teeth, tapping the page. "It shouldn't exist." "But it does," I said. "And you triggered it." She looked at her lawyer. He didn't meet her eyes. That was the moment she realized something important. No one in that room was going to save her from herself. By the end of the meeting, nothing was resolved. No settlement. No apology. Just an agreement to continue under the terms already in motion. As we stood to leave, she stopped me at the door. "You're enjoying this," she said quietly. I turned back to her, really looked at her for the first time. Young. Smart. Rushed. "No," I said. "I'm enduring it." That night, I opened a new folder on my computer. I hadn't planned to. I hadn't named it with intention. But the name appeared anyway, almost on its own. Future. I didn't put anything in it yet. I just let it exist. Because somewhere between being fired and being underestimated, I'd realized something she never would. Losing a job isn't the same as losing leverage. And the board was about to learn just how much leverage walks out the door when experience does. The board meeting was scheduled for Friday morning, and by Thursday night, everyone knew it wouldn't be routine. I knew because my phone didn't stop vibrating. Not angry calls. Not threats. Quiet ones. Careful voices asking questions without asking them outright. People who'd spent years keeping Harper machinery steady suddenly realizing the floor under them was shifting and looking for something solid to grab onto. I didn't promise anyone anything. That was important. Promises create expectations, and expectations create obligations. I just listened. And when people talk long enough, they reveal more than they intend to. By the time I shut my phone off around midnight, I had a clear picture of what Vanessa had done in less than 3 weeks. She hadn't just fired me. She dismantled the company's immune system. The first thing she cut wasn't people. It was process. She removed sign-off layers, calling them bureaucratic drag. Quality audits went from mandatory to optional. Preventative maintenance schedules were pushed back to optimize cash flow. On paper, it all looked efficient. In reality, it was erosion. The second thing she cut was trust. She bypassed supervisors, issuing directives directly to junior staff who didn't have the context to push back. When something broke, she blamed execution, not instruction. People learned quickly that silence was safer than honesty. And the third thing she cut was memory. Anyone who said, "We tried this before," was labeled resistant. Anyone who mentioned Charles's original reasoning was told the market had changed. Institutional knowledge was treated like clutter instead of a foundation. By Thursday afternoon, the consequences were already visible. A hydraulic unit shipped with the wrong tolerances. A client caught it during installation. Normally, that would have triggered a quiet recall and a fix within hours. Instead, the client escalated straight to legal. That email landed in my inbox too, copied to me because my continuity clause made me a required recipient on all operational risk communications. I forwarded it. Annotated it. Filed it. Still no interference. Still no warning. That evening, Charles called again. This time, there was no attempt at authority in his voice. Just fatigue. She won't listen to me, he said. Every time I push back, she accuses me of undermining her. She's confusing leadership with volume, I replied. She says you're manipulating the board. I almost laughed, but didn't. I haven't spoken to them, I said. Not once. That's what scares me, he admitted. Silence stretched between us. Not uncomfortable. Heavy. I built that place so it would outlive me, he said finally. I thought handing it to her was how that happened. It still can, I said. But not like this. Another pause. What aren't you telling me, he asked. I looked at the stack of reports on my desk. Vendor notices. HR exit summaries. Production variance charts. All dated after my termination. All traceable to decisions she'd signed off on personally. I'm not hiding anything, I said carefully. I'm just not rushing the truth. He exhaled. The board wants a full operational review. Independent. They already have one, I replied. They just don't realize it yet. He understood what that meant. I could hear it in the way his breathing changed. If I ask you to present, he said, will you? I won't frame it, I answered. I won't editorialize. I'll show them exactly what's happened. Nothing more. That's all I'm asking, he said. Friday morning, I walked back into Harper Machinery for the first time since being fired. Same floors. Same hum of machinery. Same smell of oil and metal and coolant. Different energy. Conversations dropped when I passed. Not out of fear. Out of attention. People were watching to see how this played out. Vanessa was already in the boardroom when I arrived, standing at the head of the table, laptop open, projector glowing behind her. She looked confident. Polished. Prepared to perform. She didn't look at me when I took a seat along the wall. The chairman opened the meeting with pleasantries that fooled no one, then gestured for Vanessa to begin. Her presentation was slick. Graphs trending upward. Slides full of words like optimization, modernization, agility. She spoke fast, confidently, framing every change as necessary, every loss as temporary. Then the questions started. Why had 3 senior engineers resigned within 10 days? Why had 2 long-term suppliers frozen shipments pending review? Why had a client escalated a defect complaint directly to legal instead of operations? Vanessa answered each one smoothly. Staffing refresh. Vendor resistance. Overreaction. Then the chairman turned to me. Mr. Rowe, he said, you're here under the continuity clause. Do you have anything to add? Vanessa's head snapped toward me. I stood. Slowly. No theatrics. No slides. I have observations, I said. Documented. Timestamped. Sourced. I laid the binder on the table and opened it. I didn't accuse her of incompetence. I didn't mention age or ego or inexperience. I simply walked them through cause and effect. Decision. Outcome. Change. Consequence. Every chart I showed had a signature at the bottom. Hers. Every incident had a date. A cost. A ripple. The room went quiet. Not tense. Focused. When I finished, I closed the binder and stepped back. No conclusion. No recommendation. Just facts. The chairman thanked me. The board asked Vanessa if she wanted to respond. She did. Her voice was sharper now. Defensive. He's exaggerating, she said. He's invested in making this look bad. One of the board members leaned forward. Are the documents inaccurate? No, but... Then they're not exaggerations, he replied. Another board member asked, why were these risks not flagged internally before escalation? Vanessa hesitated. Just a fraction of a second too long. Because the reporting structure was streamlined, she said. The chairman nodded slowly. Streamlined past accountability. That was the moment the room shifted. Not against her. Away from her. After the meeting, she cornered me in the hallway. You planned this, she hissed. I documented it, I corrected. You're trying to take my company. I'm trying to keep it standing, I said. You think they trust you more than me? I looked her in the eye. I think they trust evidence. She stormed off without another word. That afternoon, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered. This is Douglas Klein, the voice said. We've never met, but I've been watching what's happening over there. I said nothing. I own Precision Dynamics across town, he continued. We've been competing with Harper for years, but lately, they've been making mistakes I don't understand. I waited. I'm not calling to poach, he said. I'm calling because I think there's an opportunity. For what? I asked. To build something better, he replied. With people who know how. After we hung up, I opened the folder labeled Future. And for the first time, I put something in it. Because while Vanessa was fighting to keep control, she hadn't realized the real shift had already happened. The company no longer revolved around her decisions. It revolved around the absence she'd created. And absence, when it comes to experience, has a way of attracting alternatives. Douglas Klein didn't waste time. By Monday morning, I was standing inside an empty warehouse on the east side of Indianapolis, sunlight cutting through high windows coated in years of dust. The place smelled like cold concrete and possibility. Douglas stood beside me, hands on his hips, already seeing what it could become. "This used to be a specialty fabrication shop," he said. "Closed last year. Owners retired. Infrastructure's solid. Power capacity's there. We could have machines installed in 6 weeks." I didn't answer right away. I was listening, to the echo of our footsteps, to the absence of noise where there should have been machines, to the strange calm that comes right before a decision changes your life. "What are you proposing?" I asked. "A partnership," Douglas said. "Not a rescue mission. Not revenge. A clean build. Custom hydraulics. Low volume. High margin. The exact segment Harper abandoned." I nodded slowly. "You realize who they'll come after first?" "I'm counting on it," he replied. "Competition sharpens focus." That afternoon, I made 3 calls. Thomas Baldwin answered on the first ring. "I was hoping you'd call," he said. Jennifer picked up on the second ring, her voice cautious but curious. The third call went to a number I hadn't dialed in months. Jason Wright. One of the brightest systems engineers Harper had ever underpaid. By the end of the day, none of them had said yes. But none of them had said no either. That was enough. Back at Harper Machinery, Vanessa was unraveling. Not publicly. Not yet. But inside the company, the cracks were widening. The board had ordered an external audit. Vendors were requesting revised payment terms. 2 more senior technicians gave notice within 48 hours, citing strategic uncertainty. Vanessa responded the only way she knew how: control. She instituted stricter NDAs. Restricted internal data access. Centralized approvals through her office. Every move screamed authority, but what it actually communicated was fear. And fear spreads faster than confidence ever does. Charles called me again midweek. "She's selling equipment," he said quietly. "What kind?" I asked, though I already suspected. "Custom machining units. The ones we bought last year. Says they're underutilized." I closed my eyes. Those machines weren't underutilized. They were the backbone of the custom division. The division that had kept Harper profitable when mass production margins tightened. "Who's buying them?" I asked. "A liquidation firm," he said. "Auction pricing." That was the moment it stopped being theoretical. "She's converting the company into something liquid," I said. "That's not modernization. That's extraction." "I know," Charles replied. "The board knows now too." Silence. "What aren't they telling me?" I asked. "They're considering restructuring leadership," he admitted. "But it's complicated. Family. Optics. Optics don't keep companies alive," I said. "No," he agreed. "People do." 2 weeks later, Cornerstone Precision was incorporated. The name had been Thomas's idea. "Foundations matter," he'd said. "Corners hold the weight." By the end of the first month, we had 6 signed contracts. All clients Harper had deprioritized in favor of scale. All clients who valued precision over price. Jennifer joined as head of quality. Jason came on board as systems lead. Thomas oversaw engineering. Every hire was deliberate. No titles inflated. No egos indulged. We built slow. Correctly. Meanwhile, Harper accelerated in the opposite direction. A major Midwest client suspended orders pending review. A supplier demanded cash up front. An internal whistleblower flagged skipped safety checks. The board scheduled an emergency meeting. Vanessa didn't invite me.